The midweek break week strategists don't join us nearly often enough, but they're here today. Sarah Bain is with Hill and Knowlton, and there's our happy couples in Toronto. Robin Sears, who is with Earnscliffe Strategy Group. Jason Leader, who is with Enterprise Canada. Nice to have you all here. I want to quickly talk about this Kinder Morgan announcement today, guys, and Sarah. Is it smart to sort of float the idea that you'll backstop losses without taking an equity position? And frankly, is it wise to say you'll invest in a project that they say is already pretty viable on its own? What do you make of this, Robin?
You know, I was thinking Peter Lougheed would be spitting in his grave, Don, because this is the sort of play where he would have insisted on an equity stake, insisted on a hard number and a commitment of what that would mean. Instead, we've got this, quote, indemnification for amounts of money that range from millions to billions and unknown. I don't think it solves anything. I think it's just kicking the can again.
Jason?
I mean, this is, there's that old poker saying, you know, when you look around the table and you can't find the sucker's you. And I gotta say, I don't know what the government of Canada has been doing on this for the last number of bits. They've backed themselves into this weird corner. You know, if Stephen Harper would have gone to Houston and negotiated a, we're going to give you, you know, hundreds of millions or $1 billion to build a pipeline that you're going to make money for with nothing in return, I think you would have been laughed out of the place. And you know, they've taken all the other options on the table. They've backed themselves into this corner. They've finally figured out it's in the national interest, and now they're a desperate government trying to do what they can to save it. And I don't know what they're doing.
Wow, the reviews are lukewarm here, Sarah. What do you,
Wow.
I would say, to understate. I mean, some people would argue it's a smart position not to buy in, but on the other hand, what are we getting for this?
Right. Well, I think today the announcement obviously was because of the shareholder meeting, and this was an effort by the government to show clearly to shareholders that they are committed to having this project move forward. By indicating today that one of the concerns, obviously very clear concerns that the company and the shareholders have, is that there is risk involved. That necessarily doesn't exist for other projects because you have a social license that's required. You have governments that are sparring on this. So the government is simply indicating to this company, you are concerned about the risk. We are providing a guarantee so that that risk can be removed, that political risk.
Yeah, but what have they made clear, Sarah? They haven't made anything clear to the shareholders of Kinder Morgan. All they've said to them is, we'll indemnify you against
Right.
point great grandmothers lying in front of bulldozers for 2 years. I mean, there is no such guarantee that can be offered apart from making this a federal public project. And they're refusing to do that. They're refusing to invest. It's not insurance. It's just words.
It is, absolutely. It's indicating to their commitment to a project by indicating that they will remove that risk. It's very simple.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
I don't think Jason thinks it's that simple.
Well, I just, you know, Trudeau, walked around the country for the last couple of years saying, if you just believe me with my carbon tax, if you just send me into Alberta and BC, I'll be able to get all these pipelines built. And here he is. He's got to buy it for $1 billion.
Jason, the previous government had no luck getting any.
I think Keystone, the Alberta Clipper, Line 9 reversal, there's tons of pipelines that were built under the last guy. This guy hasn't built an inch, so just to turn it around on you, I don't see it happening.
I don't know.
Okay, I want to move on because there's some other juicy topics here. we'll stick with sort of Alberta issues. Jason Kenney, we all know him, former federal cabinet minister, and now he's the official leader of the official opposition in Alberta. Man, he unleashed in a Calgary Sun. He gave them a bunch of quotes about Justin Trudeau. And I'll just put the comments up here. He says, he's talking about Justin Trudeau. He says, this guy was my critic in opposition for 3 years. I don't think he has the foggiest idea what's going on. I know Justin. He doesn't have a clue what he's doing. This guy's an empty trust fund millionaire who has the political depth of a finger bowl. He can't read a briefing note longer than a cocktail napkin. Now, I've heard a lot of slam dunks on rival politicians before. That's got to be the most acerbic. What do you make of that, Jason? I mean, should Jason Kenney not be toning it down a little bit? He might have to work with this prime minister one day.
I thought he was pretty measured, Don. I thought he was pretty restrained there. No, I'm joking. You know, the problem that the issue here is Mr. Kenney, who's at 50 or 60% in Alberta, is running against a politician, Mr. Trudeau, who's at slightly less popular than Kathleen Wynne is in Ontario. So, it's the truth is this kind of politics will work. He's probably going to have to tone it down a little bit. I mean, that was probably as hot as you're gonna see it. And I know Robin and Sarah won't like it very much. But I got to say, politics works, and the Trudeau name in Alberta these days, he's not winning any more seats in Alberta.
Well, man, I tweeted it, and it's been getting retweeted like a madman. Well, I mean, Robin, really, is this not a little over the top?
Well, the funny thing about Mr. Kenney is he used to talk that way in private about Mr. Harper. I mean, he has a rather delusional self-importance for a politician who thinks that he can say anything about anybody and it won't come around and bite him. No, it's vulgar, it's silly, and it reflects, I'm afraid, the kind of guy he is for whom truth has never been his best friend.
I'm not sure Justin Trudeau will easily forget that one, but maybe he will.
Well, I think there are parts of both of what Robin and Jason have said that I want to emphasize. I think Jason is right in saying that the
Jason Kenney's right.
No, our Jason on the panel
All right.
is right in saying that this is certainly a tactic. I think to attack his opponent here that he thinks is going to help him get into the Premier's office is actually the Prime Minister, and it's never hurt any candidates in Alberta to attack the Prime Minister in our country. So I think that's a reasonable tactic, but. This is a former colleague of his. This is the Prime Minister, the sitting Prime Minister. It is completely inappropriate and disrespectful to speak about him or anyone in that way. And on this panel, we absolutely attack each other on our policies, but never the people. And I think that he has gone. I can't even understand what would have motivated him to go this far. Obviously he said it. I believe he meant it, and I don't think he's going to apologize for it.
Just for what it's worth, Don. Some of the things that Liberals and others say about Jason Kenney, both publicly and privately, I don't think some of that'll strip the paint off the walls as well. So it goes both ways on this one.
Yeah, but there's one difference, Jason.
We have an
Private
actual
is not
example
public.
of someone who has said something.
I want a final topic. Justin Trudeau, we just saw Kevin's report about he's in New York, but he's also down there, I guess, to sort of try and whip up support for NAFTA. This is his 16th trip to the sell NAFTA in the States, 10 since Trump became president. There's a bit of an unofficial deadline tomorrow, and I guess I'm wondering, has Trudeau put maybe too much skin in the game himself on this one? Is the success of NAFTA now an imperative for him that politically, or will he be able to get away from this if NAFTA falls apart without too much damage to his reputation? Robin, what do you think?
There are not many foreign policy files in which I give the Liberals much credit, but this is one of them. They have managed the NAFTA file, I think, with exceptional strength and wisdom by bringing all kinds of Canadians, from Rona Ambrose to Jerry Dias to all kinds of business leaders, into the tent to help them do this. So if it fails, they can say, we did everything. We pulled out all the stops, and still it failed. If it succeeds, they'll get the credit for it.
I'm going to say that that I agree with what Robin just said, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking instead about Trudeau's, sort of laugher at this speech about how we've got to listen to some of our opponents and we've got to, take the other side and all this kind of stuff. I didn't understand a word that he was saying, given the tone of the discourse coming out of BMO over the last little bit, and how that they basically all their enemies they laughed at them. I will say this: the NAFTA file, they've done a very good job, and I agree with Robin. If it fails, it's on Trump, not on Trudeau.
All right, I'm going to actually talk about what you're referring to there a bit later with our journalist, Jason. Last word to you, Sarah.
Well, I agree with my colleagues on the panel.
I know they say nice things about you. I guess you do.
I agree with that.
But tomorrow we could be in trouble.
I would say that one of the things that's really important to the Trump government is not only to be heard, but to be seen. And I think the fact that the Prime Minister has been going regularly is a clear indication of the commitment that he has to this agreement. And the Prime Minister is speaking to Mr. Trump regularly. On the other side of it, I think it's really interesting, and certainly a point of pride for myself, that our Prime Minister gets invited to events like this at NYU and to 10,000 plus individuals at the Yankee Stadium. It's a pretty big deal.
Well, that's a heck of a segue, but let's talk about Wayne Easter. He basically said that all this talk, he's an MP, he's on the parliamentary group. He says this whole idea of sunset clauses is stupid. That's not exactly a nice setup to tomorrow's sort of unofficial deadline, is it?
Well, I would simply say that I have not seen those comments, but he is not part of the negotiating team, not in Washington right now. So I am certain that he will have some explaining to do.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, everybody. We will see you the next break week. It's still a little ways away, but we'd like to get you back as soon as we can. Thanks very much.
Thanks.